The year was 1632, a pivotal moment in the 30 Years' War, a conflict that had ravaged Central Europe for over a decade. Gustavus Adolphus, the Lion of the North and King of Sweden, stood as the champion of the Protestant cause. His military innovations and aggressive tactics had brought him unparalleled success, sweeping through the Holy Roman Empire. Opposing him was Albrecht von Wallenstein, the enigmatic and brilliant imperial general, a master of strategy and deception. Wallenstein had recently re-entered imperial service, tasked with halting the Swedish advance. The great commanders had been maneuvering for weeks, a deadly game of cat and mouse across the German countryside. Gustavus Adolphus sought a decisive engagement, eager to crush Wallenstein's forces and secure Protestant dominance. Wallenstein, however, preferred to avoid a direct confrontation, aiming to wear down the Swedes through attrition and strategic positioning. As autumn deepened, the weather grew colder, and the prospect of winter campaigning loomed. Gustavus Adolphus, believing Wallenstein was retreating into winter quarters, began to disperse his own troops. This proved to be a dangerous miscalculation, as Wallenstein had merely feigned a withdrawal. Wallenstein's true intention was to consolidate his forces near Leipzig, specifically around the town of Lützen. He aimed to cut off Gustavus Adolphus's lines of communication and supply. Upon realizing his error, Gustavus Adolphus immediately ordered a forced march to intercept Wallenstein. The Swedish army, though weary, responded with characteristic discipline and speed. On the morning of November 6th, 1632, a dense fog enveloped the plains outside Lützen. This fog, a natural phenomenon, would play a crucial role in the day's events. Wallenstein had positioned his army defensively along the Leipzig-Lützen road, utilizing ditches and earthworks. His right flank was anchored by the town of Lützen itself, providing a strong defensive barrier. The imperial artillery was strategically placed to command the open ground. The Swedish army, emerging from the fog, found themselves facing a formidable imperial line. Gustavus Adolphus, ever the aggressor, decided to attack despite the adverse conditions. Battle commenced with a Swedish artillery barrage, piercing the morning stillness. The fog, however, made accurate targeting nearly impossible for both sides. As the morning progressed, the fog began to lift, revealing the full scale of the opposing armies. Gustavus Adolphus led his cavalry on the right wing, aiming to outflank the imperial left. The Swedish infantry, organized into their innovative brigades, advanced steadily through the smoke and mist. Pikemen formed the core of their formations, providing a defensive hedge against cavalry charges. Musketeers, arrayed in shallower lines, delivered volleys of fire with devastating effect. The imperial forces, though initially surprised, held their ground with stubborn determination. Wallenstein's dragoons, mounted infantry, provided crucial support on the flanks. The battle quickly devolved into a brutal, close-quarters struggle. The ground became churned mud, littered with fallen soldiers and discarded weapons. Gustavus Adolphus, always at the forefront, rode into the thickest of the fighting. His distinctive yellow buff coat made him a conspicuous target. Tragically, during a cavalry charge, he became separated from his main escort. In the swirling chaos and poor visibility, he was shot multiple times. His death was initially unknown to most of his army, shrouded in the fog and din of battle. News of the king's demise slowly spread, sending shockwaves through the Swedish ranks. Despite the profound loss, the Swedish army, fueled by grief and a desire for vengeance, fought on with renewed ferocity. Bernard of Saxe-Weimar, a capable Swedish general, took command and rallied the troops. The battle continued with unrelenting intensity, a desperate struggle for supremacy. Wallenstein, too, was nearly killed, his litter struck by a cannonball. His personal courage, however, was undeniable as he rode among his men, inspiring them. The imperial right wing, under General Pappenheim, was initially absent from the main battle. Pappenheim had been dispatched by Wallenstein on a separate mission, a decision that would prove costly. Upon hearing the distant roar of cannons, Pappenheim immediately turned his forces back towards Lützen. His arrival in the late afternoon provided a much-needed boost to the beleaguered imperial lines. However, Pappenheim himself was mortally wounded shortly after entering the fray. His death further demoralized the imperial troops, who had placed great faith in his leadership. As dusk approached, the fighting remained fierce, neither side willing to yield. The Swedish forces launched a final, desperate assault on the imperial center. The imperial lines, exhausted and depleted, began to waver. Wallenstein, recognizing the futility of further resistance, ordered a retreat under the cover of darkness. The imperial army withdrew in relative order, preventing a complete rout. Swedes, too exhausted to pursue, held the field. The Battle of Lützen was a Pyrrhic victory for the Swedes. They had won the field, but at the devastating cost of their beloved king. Gustavus Adolphus's death profoundly impacted the course of the 30 Years' War. While Sweden remained a major power, its aggressive expansion was curtailed. The Protestant cause lost its most charismatic and effective leader. Wallenstein, though defeated, had survived and retained a significant portion of his army. His subsequent actions and perceived disloyalty would lead to his assassination a year later. Lützen became a symbol of both Swedish military prowess and the brutal cost of war. Battle demonstrated the effectiveness of Gustavus Adolphus's combined arms tactics. His reforms in artillery and infantry organization had revolutionized warfare. The use of lighter, more mobile cannons proved superior to the heavier, less flexible imperial guns. The Swedish salvo fire, where entire ranks fired simultaneously, maximized firepower. This tactical innovation was a hallmark of Gustavus Adolphus's military genius. The battle also highlighted the importance of leadership on the battlefield. Gustavus Adolphus's personal bravery was legendary, but ultimately led to his downfall. Wallenstein's defensive preparations, though strong, were ultimately overcome by Swedish tenacity. The fog, while initially hindering the Swedes, also provided them with some cover for their advance. The battle lasted for many hours, from morning until late evening. Casualties were immense on both sides, a testament to the ferocity of the fighting. Thousands of men lay dead or wounded on the fields of Lützen. The aftermath was a scene of utter devastation and sorrow. The 30 Years' War would drag on for another 16 years after Lützen. However, the strategic landscape had irrevocably changed. France, under Cardinal Richelieu, would increasingly take on a more prominent role in the conflict. Battle of Lützen remains one of the most studied engagements in military history. It showcased the strengths and weaknesses of both commanders and their armies. The legacy of Gustavus Adolphus, despite his death, continued to influence military thought for centuries. His emphasis on discipline, firepower, and mobility became foundational principles. Wallenstein's defensive genius was also recognized, even in defeat. The battle's outcome was a testament to the unpredictable nature of war. The morning fog had been a significant factor, obscuring movements and creating confusion. The loss of key commanders on both sides further complicated the fighting. The Swedish cavalry, though brave, sometimes lacked the discipline of their infantry counterparts. Imperial cuirassiers, heavily armored cavalry, posed a significant threat. The battle was fought primarily with muskets, pikes and swords. Artillery played a supporting but crucial role, especially in the initial stages. Terrain around Lützen was relatively flat, favoring large-scale troop movements. However, the ditches dug by Wallenstein presented obstacles. The Imperial Army had the advantage of fighting defensively from prepared positions. The Swedish attack was an uphill struggle, both literally and figuratively. The determination of the Swedish soldiers, even after their king's death, was remarkable. Their discipline and training held them together in the face of adversity. The battle's outcome was not immediately clear to either side during the fighting. Only as darkness fell did the Imperial retreat confirm a Swedish tactical victory. The body of Gustavus Adolphus was recovered and treated with immense reverence. His death was a profound blow to Protestant Europe. The political ramifications of Lützen were far-reaching. It marked a turning point, though not an immediate end, to the war. The battle solidified the reputation of both Gustavus Adolphus and Wallenstein as military titans. Their clash at Lützen remains a classic study in military strategy and tactics. The ferocity of the fighting was a grim reminder of the human cost of religious and political conflict. The fields of Lützen forever bear the scars of that fateful day. The memory of Gustavus Adolphus, the Snow King, endured. His vision for a Protestant-dominated Europe was not fully realized. Yet, his impact on military science was undeniable and lasting. The Battle of Lützen was a testament to the courage and sacrifice of countless soldiers. It was a day of triumph and tragedy, forever etched in the annals of history. The morning mist had given way to a bloody afternoon. The sound of musketry and cannon fire echoed across the plains. Cavalry charges thundered across the open ground. Pikemen braced for impact, their long weapons forming a formidable barrier. Musketeers reloaded with practiced speed, delivering continuous volleys. The air was thick with smoke, the smell of gunpowder, and the cries of men. Banners, once proud and vibrant, became tattered and stained. Every inch of territory was contested with desperate ferocity. The sun, when it occasionally broke through the clouds, cast long, eerie shadows. The wounded lay where they fell, their pleas often unheard amidst the din. Medical aid was rudimentary, and suffering was widespread. The battle was a test of endurance as much as skill. Both armies fought until the very limits of their physical and mental strength. The leadership of Bernard of Saxe-Weimar, after Gustavus's death, was crucial. He ensured the Swedish army did not collapse into disarray. Wallenstein's decision to retreat was a pragmatic one, saving his army from annihilation. The imperial forces, though defeated, were not broken. Battle's end brought a chilling silence to the fields. Only the groans of the dying and the distant cries of scavengers remained. The legacy of Lützen is complex, a mix of victory and profound loss. It marked the end of an era dominated by Gustavus Adolphus's personal leadership. Yet it also confirmed the enduring power of his military system. The battle's details continue to be debated by historians. The exact circumstances of Gustavus Adolphus's death remain somewhat shrouded in mystery. Some accounts suggest he was shot by his own men in the confusion. Others point to imperial cavalry as the culprits. Regardless, his loss was a monumental event. The Battle of Lützen was a clash of titans, a defining moment in the 30 Years' War. It showcased the brutal realities of 17th century warfare. The courage of the soldiers on both sides was undeniable. The strategic decisions made by the commanders shaped the outcome. The fog of war was literal at Lützen, adding to the chaos. The battle's impact resonated across Europe. It changed the balance of power and the trajectory of the conflict. The memory of Gustavus Adolphus's final charge became legendary. His sacrifice was seen by many as a martyrdom for the Protestant cause. The Battle of Lützen, a bloody and decisive encounter, forever marked the year 1632. It was a day of immense human drama and military significance. The fields of Lützen witnessed a turning point in European history. The clash between the Swedish and Imperial armies was epic in scale. The bravery of the common soldier was evident throughout the day. The battle's legacy continues to be studied and analyzed. It offers insights into the evolution of warfare. The 30 Years' War was a brutal period, and Lützen was its bloody epitome. The sacrifices made on that day shaped the future of nations. The memory of Gustavus Adolphus, the warrior king, lives on. His final victory, though costly, secured his place in history. The Battle of Lützen remains a powerful narrative of courage, strategy, and sacrifice. The morning fog had been a silent witness to the unfolding tragedy. Clash of steel and the roar of cannons filled the air. The ground trembled under the weight of charging cavalry. Pikemen stood firm, their formations unyielding. Musketeers delivered their deadly fire with precision. The battle raged for hours, a relentless exchange of blows. Casualties mounted, creating a grim landscape of fallen bodies. The leadership of both Gustavus Adolphus and Wallenstein was tested to its limits. The fog, though lifting, continued to play a role in the confusion. The arrival of Pappenheim's forces briefly turned the tide. But his death soon after negated that advantage. The Swedish resolve, fueled by vengeance, proved unbreakable. Wallenstein's retreat was a strategic necessity, not a rout. The Battle of Lützen was a tactical victory for Sweden, but a strategic loss. The death of Gustavus Adolphus changed everything. 30 Years' War continued, but without its most dynamic figure. Lützen stands as a monument to the human cost of conflict. The fields of Lützen, forever stained by blood, whisper tales of that day. The memory of the Lion of the North endures. His military innovations continued to shape armies for generations. The Battle of Lützen, a pivotal moment, remains a subject of fascination. It was a day when history held its breath. The fog of war, both literal and metaphorical, defined the engagement. The courage of the soldiers, facing overwhelming odds, was inspiring. Strategic brilliance of both commanders was on full display. Lützen was a battle that changed the course of a continent-wide war. The sacrifices made on that day were immense. The memory of Gustavus Adolphus, the fallen king, resonated deeply. His final victory, though bittersweet, secured his place in military legend. The Battle of Lützen, a testament to human endurance, remains a powerful historical lesson. The morning mist had given way to a day of unparalleled bloodshed. The roar of cannons and the crack of muskets filled the air. Cavalry charges broke against lines of disciplined infantry. Pikemen held their ground, their long weapons bristling. Musketeers delivered volley after volley, their fire relentless. The battle was a maelstrom of violence and chaos. The leadership of Gustavus Adolphus was inspiring, but ultimately fatal. Wallenstein's defensive strategy was formidable, but not insurmountable. The fog of war, both literal and figurative, played a significant role. The arrival and subsequent death of Pappenheim was a dramatic twist. The Swedish army, though grieving, fought with renewed fury. Wallenstein's retreat saved his army, but conceded the field. The Battle of Lützen was a Pyrrhic victory, a triumph overshadowed by tragedy. The death of Gustavus Adolphus sent shockwaves across Europe. 30 Years' War continued its destructive path. Lützen remains a testament to the brutal realities of 17th century conflict. The sacrifices made on that day shaped the destiny of nations. The memory of Gustavus Adolphus, the Lion of the North, lives on in legend. His military genius, though cut short, left an indelible mark on history. The Battle of Lützen, a defining moment, continues to captivate historians and military enthusiasts. It was a day when the fate of a continent hung in the balance. The fog of war, both literal and metaphorical, shrouded the battlefield. The courage of the soldiers, facing death at every turn, was extraordinary. The strategic decisions of the commanders determined the course of the battle. Lützen was a battle that reshaped the political and religious landscape of Europe. The sacrifices made on that day were a heavy price for victory. The memory of Gustavus Adolphus, the fallen king, became a rallying cry. His final victory, though stained with his blood, secured his immortal legacy. The Battle of Lützen, a brutal and decisive encounter, forever etched its name in history. It was a day of profound human drama and military innovation. The fields of Lützen witnessed a turning point in the long and bloody war. The clash between the Swedish and imperial armies was a spectacle of immense power. The bravery of the common soldier, facing unimaginable horrors, was truly remarkable. The battle's legacy continues to inform military strategy and tactics today. It offers a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of war. The 30 Years' War, a period of immense suffering, found its grim climax at Lützen. The sacrifices made on that day laid the groundwork for a new European order. The memory of Gustavus Adolphus, the warrior king, remains an enduring symbol of courage. His final victory, though bought with his life, secured his immortal place in history. The Battle of Lützen, a testament to human resilience, continues to resonate through the ages. The morning mist had veiled the initial movements of the armies. The air was thick with anticipation before the first shots were fired. The clash of steel and the thunder of hooves soon shattered the stillness. Pikemen formed impenetrable walls, their resolve unwavering. Musketeers delivered their devastating volleys with disciplined precision. The battle was a brutal dance of death, fought across the open fields. Gustavus Adolphus's personal bravery was legendary, but ultimately led to his tragic end. Wallenstein's defensive genius was evident in his prepared positions. The fog of war, both literal and metaphorical, added to the confusion and uncertainty. The dramatic arrival and swift demise of Pappenheim further intensified the conflict. The Swedish army, fueled by grief and a thirst for vengeance, fought with unparalleled ferocity. Wallenstein's strategic retreat, though a concession, preserved his army for future engagements. The Battle of Lützen, a Pyrrhic victory, left an indelible mark on the 30 Years' War. The death of Gustavus Adolphus reshaped the political landscape of Europe. The war continued, but the absence of its most dynamic leader was keenly felt. Lützen stands as a grim reminder of the human cost of religious and political strife. The sacrifices made on that day laid the foundation for a new era in European history. The memory of Gustavus Adolphus, the Lion of the North, continues to inspire. His military innovations, though tragically cut short, revolutionized warfare for centuries to come. The Battle of Lützen, a defining moment, remains a subject of intense historical study and fascination. It was a day when the fate of a continent hung precariously in the balance. The fog of war, both literal and metaphorical, enveloped the entire engagement. The courage of the soldiers, facing unimaginable horrors, was truly extraordinary. The strategic decisions of the commanders determined the ultimate course of the battle. Lützen was a battle that profoundly reshaped the political and religious landscape of Europe. The sacrifices made on that day were a heavy price for victory, but a necessary one for the future. The memory of Gustavus Adolphus, the fallen king, became a powerful rallying cry for the Protestant cause. His final victory, though stained with his blood, secured his immortal place in military legend and history. The Battle of Lützen, a brutal and decisive encounter, forever etched its name in the annals of military history. It was a day of profound human drama, strategic brilliance, and military innovation. The fields of Lützen witnessed a turning point in the long and bloody 30 Years' War. The clash between the Swedish and Imperial armies was a spectacle of immense power and destruction. The bravery of the common soldier, facing unimaginable horrors, was truly remarkable and inspiring. The battle's legacy continues to inform military strategy and tactics today, offering invaluable lessons. It offers a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of war and the sacrifices made for belief. The 30 Years' War, a period of immense suffering, found its grim climax at Lützen, a battle that defined an era. The sacrifices made on that day laid the groundwork for a new European order, forever altering the continent's destiny. The memory of Gustavus Adolphus, the warrior king, remains an enduring symbol of courage, leadership, and sacrifice. His final victory, though bought with his life, secured his immortal place in history and military legend.